You know those stories of women who go into a bathroom with a stomach ache and come out with a baby? You know those stories of women who somehow miss the fact that they are pregnant, who silently, secretly, unbeknownst to them or anyone else, carry a baby for 9 months, right up to a delivery, cloaked in shocking misunderstanding? Those stories are not my story. In my story, I knew my son was coming way before he was ever physically conceived. I was 23, living on Kauai, Hawaii's oldest island, the Garden Island, when the seeds of my future as a mother were first planted. In my mind and in my heart, if not yet in my womb. It just became clear that the next thing on my path was to be a mother. It felt like someone was knocking at the door. In preparing to answer it, I embraced a new level of responsibility. I started to think of me as we. Thus began my evolution from tripped-out hippie chick to earnest young mother. I passed on the recreational intoxicants. I enhanced my already great, mostly organic vegetarian diet till it was completely stellar. Holding my friends' babies while we worked in the kitchen, snorkeling amongst the fish and the sea turtles, walking the beach under the stars, I drew deeper breaths, filling myself up, expanding. And soon, clear, strong, and open, we moved back to Maine, where 3 generations of my family and 8 of Peter's had rooted. On ancestral homeland, we'd nest and prepare to receive. Our first night home, while the pines creaked in the rushing spring winds, we crawled into bed and made a baby. I knew instantly, a shimmer of silver light I felt and somehow saw in my belly, a seismic shift, sacred geometry aligning. "We just made a baby," I whispered into the air, tears of joy spilling gently down my cheeks. I felt it with an unequivocal knowing, like nothing I'd ever felt. Labor was also like nothing I'd ever felt. Even wilder, it was like nothing I'd ever known. My labor included a bit of pacing the time-worn wooden floor of the upstairs hall, but mostly I was on the toilet, a comfortable place to let go. It was there, after a few hours of contractions opening my hips, my pelvis, my cervix, that I found myself needing help. I was out of references, without clues, bereft of any prior experience to help me make sense of what was happening. I had reached a place where I had no idea what to do next. Not like a listless Sunday afternoon in a hammock, golly, I simply don't know what to do next. Oh no, this was a holy shit kind of I don't know what to do next. While I was in the throes of a total lack of direction, the baby, working his way on out, was not. He wasn't pausing politely while I found my bearings. In fact, everything was getting faster and more furious. It was then that I called the midwife into the bathroom. In a brief lull between the clenches, I thanked her and told her plainly that it had been great thus far, really, but that I was done. I suggested she needed to get someone else, not me, someone who actually knew how to have this baby. Oh yes, it was time for my stand-in. My stunt double. Because I was ready for a break. I deserved a break. I wondered dimly. I wonder who they're gonna get to have this baby, but oh well, that's not my concern. As for me, all that made sense was finding an exit. Oh, but damn that sensible midwife, she told me there was no way out, that I had to find a way through. I suddenly didn't like her so much. She was clearly not getting me. It was time for me to go. And indeed, I went, but like she said, through it. With nothing left to offer, my mind retreated, and my body took over. I dropped into pure animal being. The only things there were my midwife's eyes, conveying to me the power of every female everything, mouse, woman, tigress, that had ever given birth. Her eyes transmitted from somewhere out there and reflected from somewhere in me the strength, the faith, the opening. The midwife had honored my departure and had guided my return through that most radical shift they called transition. Then she spoke. I think it's time. She checked and confirmed. I was fully dilated. The gate was officially open. No going back now. I was back now. Clear, focused, energized. Who was going to have this baby? I was, right now, which is exactly what I did. For me, pregnancy was positively dreamy. I'd never felt so right in my body. Birth was initiatory empowerment of the highest order, absolutely sacred. The first holy hours with my baby were the most profound of my life. A rosy feast of bonding, latching on, and pure love. We were blanketed in peace as giant snowflakes danced in a deep night sky. Later, by the light of day, it was so bright outside, everything covered in white, that it hurt to look through the windows. Other unbearable feelings revealed themselves too. He was so tiny, so perfect looking, but why did he sleep all the time? That made me nervous. Was he breathing okay? Really, how the hell would I know? I'd never been around a newborn before, and this one had just arrived, somehow making us, the hapless jackasses entrusted with its care. Whoa, there had been a big mistake, I thought. We were not prepared for this. Here I was, a few hours into the mother thing, already not knowing what to do, deeply unsure if this baby, our baby, my baby, was perfectly normal or was dying before our helpless, ignorant eyes. That it could be utterly A, perfectly normal, or B, a dying baby, was reinforced by the palpable sense of how thin the veils had gotten to get him here in the first place. I mean, just as easily and mysteriously as he'd appeared, couldn't he disappear? These fears were an all too abrupt intrusion into our bliss. Where was the grown-up? Who was going to take care of us, of the baby? My mother-in-law, a no-nonsense Yankee, mother times 4, came down the hill to our house and authoritatively removed our doubts. She held the baby, told me he was fine, and taught me that newborns just sleep a lot. He's 12 now, my son, and he still sleeps a lot. But man, how he has awakened. I've known him forever and will never stop learning about him, from him, with him. He asks me tough questions. I love that he asks me tough questions. Age 4.5 brought the first memorable doozy. "Hey, Mama," he piped up from the back seat. "Yeah, baby?" I tossed back, my eyes raising off the road to meet his big brown ones in the rearview mirror. "Mama, what's sexy mean?" He was studying a cracked cassette case that housed a picture of an in-her-prime, leggy, busty, airbrushed Mariah Carey, clad barely in the smallest lycra tubes possible. And am I imagining the next flicker? One grubby little hand bringing the case closer to his discerning eyes, while the other dropped to give a quick, unconscious squeeze to his crotch? I remember taking a deep, prayer-filled breath. The pause was probably only a second or two, his question hanging in the space between the front seat and the back, as my mind raced, blanked, froze, and boiled. Oh my God, did he just ask me what sexy means? This is big. Okay. Answer inclusively, responsively, from the heart. We're casting templates here. My baby big boy was looking at a tarted up Mariah Carey. I think he just squeezed his penis. And he was still waiting for my reply to his stunning query. What's sexy mean? Okay, let him know sex is normal, natural, for grown-ups. Do we talk about perverts and boundaries here? No, I don't think so. Wait, he didn't ask me what sex is. That'll probably come later. He asked me what sexy means. Jesus, what does sexy mean? All right, so think sexy in a way he can grow on, leaving him room for personal interpretation, but not so open that it's vague or dismissive. And certainly, make the answer neutral in case he's gay or bi or something. I'd hate to think he'll be on some therapist's couch in 20 years sobbing, "It all began when I asked my mom what sexy meant." Well, I began, sexy means different things to different people. Pause, check the road again. Oh, I gotta get gas while we're in town. Like what? He persisted. I tried my best to give a good answer, a great one that in perfect appropriateness would fortify our foundation of trust. When my response felt complete, I stopped. Back in the mirror, I scanned his face for impact. I waited to see if my 4.5-year-old had any follow-up commentary. You know, something like, "Gee, Mom, thanks. You've really deepened my understanding and enhanced my perspective in an entirely relevant, developmentally correct manner." Instead, he cheerily informed me, "Dad says big boobs are sexy." I immediately wondered what kind of education and experience my son was having on the days he was with his dad, with whom I'd recently shifted from spouse to co-parent. Was Peter providing a nurturing home, or was he raising our son half the time in a swinging bachelor pad, some manly den of vice? A while later, I realized our son had probably just asked his two parents the same question and gotten their two different answers. Which was fine. Which must be fine. Which has to be fine, because it is what is. We have so much to learn from one another. My son has taught me, is teaching me, will never stop teaching me how to be more honest, thoughtful, and humble than I ever knew was possible.